All right, so for our next magic trick, we are going to learn how to make a lovely box plot. A box plot is a graph of the 5-number summary. Now, we're not going to actually care about all this jazz up here in this box because StatCrunch makes them for you. Yes. Beautiful StatCrunch. Excel does not make these graphs, so yet another reason to use StatCrunch. It's available for free for all of you students that have my math lab. So just go to StatCrunch and go to Graphics, and it's right there, Box Plot of that data, variable 1. I suppose I could have called it IQ data. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to go up here, and I'm tired of calling it. I got to backspace, IQ data, just for the heck of it. Okay, Graphics, Box Plot, IQ data. Next. Use fences to identify outliers for sure, right? We want that, so I'm going to click that box. And I would like the graph to be horizontal, for example. In general, the book that you're working with likes it horizontal. They don't have to be. They can be vertical as well. And there you go. I can copy. I could take it to Excel, and I could just paste it in. There's the graph. Or I could copy and paste it into my Word document. It's a huge graph, so I can just shrink it down in size. There we go. You just take your cursor up to the top corner to make it smaller or bigger, whichever. If you want a ring around it, like I often do, I just double click and go up to picture border and give it a little border. There we go. All right, so notice what this graph is. It's got right there in the middle the line for Q2, the median. Over here on the right edge of the box, that's Q3. The left edge of the box is Q1, and then it makes whiskers go out. It's often called a box and whisker plot. So whiskers go out to the max and the min, provided that those are not outliers. Well, remember in this data set, the 78 is an outlier, so we don't want to make the whisker go to 78. Instead, we make it go to the next number down, which was 94. So 78 is an outlier, so he's not going to be any good, so we use 94 instead. So you go to 94, and then you put a little dot or star in at 78. So there it is, all pre-made for you from StatCrunch. You just have to know how to read it and what you're looking at. So the little dots are the outliers. The whiskers show the different, there's the first quarter right here, from 78 all the way up to here. There's the first quarter. Then in this little blue region on the left, that's the next quarter. 25% of the data is in there. Then 25% in this right side of the blue box, and then 25% in the right whisker. Now, sometimes different programs will draw them different ways. So, for example, we could have drawn it vertically, and there's another program called Minitab that I often use to make pictures like this. So that's another option. So I can use Minitab, I could use StatCrunch, I can make them vertical, I can make them horizontal. Right? You just have to know how to read them. All right, then you also need to know how to judge the shapes of data looking at the box plot. And this is just a rough rule of thumb. This is not going to be perfect every time. Okay, so keep that in mind. So if your picture is pretty symmetric, like this one is, that means your box and whisker are going to be pretty symmetric. The two box halves are pretty equal. The two whiskers are pretty equal to each other. And that's what I wrote down here. The whiskers are approximately equal. The median's in the center of the box, more or less. That's symmetric. If it's skewed right, like this one is, you can see it's got this big tail. That generally means that the right whisker is going to be longer, or could be both, could be one or the other. The right side of the box is going to be a little bit bigger. And that's also called positively skewed, because you don't want to just think of it as being the right. It also could be thinking it as the larger values. So the larger values have a longer whisker or a larger side of the box. Right? Because if it's up or down, it's no good to think of it as just skewed or skewed right. Now for skewed left, that would mean that the whisker is larger on the left-hand side and or the box is larger on the left-hand side. Another way to think of that is negatively skewed. It doesn't have to just be left and right. If you're looking at an up and down graph like this one, for example, that's skewed left. See how the whisker's really long on this side. And you want to imagine when you have a star that the whisker goes that far, because those outliers are part of the data set, so they count. Right? So always include the stars when you're thinking about extending the whiskers.